Salam Sejahtera and welcome to another edition of Perception, where we discuss current issues that are daily topics of concerned discussion among multicultural Malaysians of all walks of life. Ladies and gentlemen, our topic of discussion today is entitled The Bersih Enigma. And to discuss this matter, we have with us Yang Berhormat Dr. Zulkifli Ahmad, the Honourable Member of Parliament for Kuala Selangor. YB, welcome to Perception.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you again.
YB, could we begin this program by telling us what is the status of the July 9th Bersih rally?
Thank you, Gilad. I will quickly bring you back to remind you of what exactly is Bersih 2 struggles all about. Bersih 2 inherits the struggle of Bersih 1, and Bersih is a coalition of NGOs. Bersih 1 was a coalition of both NGOs and the political parties. However, Bersih 1 renders it to Bersih 2 at a point when we took over a few state government, and there was a unanimous consensus among political parties that Bersih 2 should be entirely NGOs. Hence, Bersih 2 is in fact an NGO phenomena, and Bersih 2 persists on to struggle for a free and fair election, and that is a campaign of Bersih 2. And in this particular rally, which is supposed to be on the 9th, for a peaceful rally, is indeed an illustration, an expression of the disgust of the NGOs, the fact that the government has failed to fulfill the reforms that they promised immediately after 12 GE. And Bersih 2, as I've been informed, and I'm quite part of it by way of being informed as to what they are struggling for, is now campaigning for a peaceful rally as a means to disseminate the message to the entire nation, and in fact the whole world, that Malaysia is in need of a free and fair election. And they have got 8 agenda of reform, and that I will elaborate later on. But as to the status of it, the most recent, the one that I've just communicated with Maria Chin Abdullah, one of the steering committee member, has just informed me that yes, 9th July is on, and that they are in the process of getting the police permit, and that would be in a way be determined by whether they will get the consent from the Stadium Merdeka's management. So it's more or less like a chicken and egg situation here. But insofar as the Bersih 2 is concerned, yes, 9 July is on, and it will be a congregation at the Stadium Merdeka.
YB, Bersih is all about seeking fair and free elections, but the UMNO BN government has deliberately twisted and distorted Bersih's noble intention to that of wanting to overthrow the government. Where is the integrity of UMNO BN?
I would first, register my extreme disgust. It has been, I was in Bicara Rakyat on that program with Lokman Adam and Ridwan T, with that moderator Syed Munawar, and we have made it very clear that because they invited me, they should have invited somebody from Bersih 2, but they invited me perhaps as an opposition MP, and the intention of Bersih 2 is clearly spelled out categorically of their reform agenda, and therefore any attempt of demonizing and painting Bersih 2 in a bad image of wanting to overthrow the government is actually very extremely deplorable and disgusting, to say the least. Mainly because Bersih is entirely about democratic reform, and democratic reform is entirely within the ambits of the federal constitution. So there is no issue about overthrowing a government in the way they alluded to be that of the pattern of those seen in the Middle East. So I think it is really a reflection of their desperate and frantic situation of trying to make believe and trying to paint us and a situation, a scenario of an unrest on 9 July. And worse still, they have now implicated some of the members who were campaigning for Bersih's 9 July to be involved in communist activities and things that would have is bizarre, is unimaginable for them to have accused us because of political parties being behind this, and that Bersih is influenced by even foreign powers, and how the chairman of Bersih, Dato' Ambega, has been demonized to have relation with outside powers, and being as well financed and funded by external powers. And those that had been detained, PSM members that had been detained, associated to the outlawed Communist Party of Malaysia, as likened to be like how Hindra was associated to be that with the Tamil Tigers. So these are all very deplorable, extremely disgusting, and this goes to show how actually the BN government is desperate not to allow Bersih to be seen in the stadium or on the road or in any way they could. They would like to fail this because perhaps they are reminded of Bersih 100,000 peaceful rally, in in 2007. That may be that image, that night may be haunting them because it almost like reminds them that these are preceding factors or a prelude to their defeat in the next GE in the next general election.
In democracy, Malaysians living abroad will be holding similar demonstrations at international capitals around the globe.
Yeah, as I was told earlier of the fact that there will be those in global cities, in the US, in Washington, in San Francisco, in Hawaii, in New York, and in cities in Australia, in Sydney, in Canberra, in Melbourne, and London, Paris, and nearer home in the Asian countries of Vietnam, Cambodia, Indonesia, Korea, and Japan, Osaka, Tokyo. They are all in concert and in tandem with the pro-democracy of Bersih too, and they are now also excited and roaring to go to demonstrate how this peaceful pro-democracy movement should be listened to by the government, and if only the government could understand and themselves embody the rhetoric of Prime Minister Najib, that gone are the days when government knows all. Now people are telling that pay attention to us if you want to get our support. And not only locally, but as well in the global cities, they are all in concert, and the chorus of protest is louder, ever so loud now.
YB, prevailing public perception is that just as the Dato Trio sex video was entrusted with the police and it appeared in every nook and corner of the country, the same fate will happen to the illegally seized Bersih t-shirts for dubious purposes, such as to infiltrate and blacken the Bersih rally. Is there basis for this public perception?
Well, I would say in anticipation for the worst case scenario, although we would like to believe that all will be fine and well, but I think it's only fair that we should take precautionary measures to ensure that on that day we will not be subverted and sabotaged and undermined by evil designs and tactical and maneuvers of the political nemesis, of the enemies that could very well dress themselves up in yellow Bersih t-shirt and henceforth be involved in misdeeds and doings that will bring bad name to Bersih too. So I would, for one, remind all those participants in for Bersih 2 pro-democracy movement to be disciplined and behave themselves and conduct themselves in the most civilized way. But I could not at all ensure that the agent provocateur or those who have infiltrated the rank will not be doing all this nonsense, and we would again plea to all those who have this kind of intention to stop executing all their evil designs, and that Bersih's participant must be very well aware and be cautious at the very sign of any provocation, and not to respond to such provocation.
YB, is there merit for the pro-democracy movement to seek a listing for Prime Minister Najib's leadership of the government in the Guinness Book of Records for being the only government in the world to deem a yellow t-shirt with the word Bersih as illegal? Would you support such an initiative?
I mean, on a more serious note, I would really think that would be, bringing shame and mockery to this government. I think they have run down themselves enough. But to fear colors, once upon a time fearing green, demanding that the Petronas logo be changed so that it doesn't, be likened to the past logo, certainly is very unreasonable and lunatic. It's mad. I mean, but then they keep moving on to fearing black once upon a time for Black April, and then they fear orange because of our buku jingga, our orange book, and now they have come to what that has been described by YB Lim Kek Siang as xentophobia, the hatred and the fear of yellow. I think in all honesty and fairness, I would just remind Najib not to stoop so low and destroy whatever left of his credibility and his government, in his government, because it is so shameful, and to outlaw colors and to outlaw events that are also provided for by the federal constitution, the rights, the fundamental rights of the citizens to assemble and to express. They may not like it, fine. They may hate it, fine. But these are all events within the ambits and the process of democracy. Democracy is about managing dissent. Now that you are in the government, you should allow us to dissent, because that is essentially democracy. For it is through that you have that check and balance. And we are not here to sing your praises all the time, because there's not much of praises that we can accord you anyway. But more importantly is that that it is the right of the citizen, the right to express dissent. And right now, the disdain and the frustration has come to a point of is so enhanced. It has come to a very extreme point of
being ludicrous.
Ridiculous. That's the word I was looking for, and therefore, Right Honourable Prime Minister Najib, think a bit, think for a while, take a step back, and see for yourself how much you have destroyed. For all the good rhetorics that you have on One Malaysia, government knows all are gone, you are actually the very antithesis and the very opposite of all your good sounding rhetorics, and this is such a shameful thing.
YB, public perception is that the charge of waging war against the king slammed on the 6 PSM members is as preposterous as the charge against Hindrav of having links with the Tamil Tigers. What is your view of this charge of waging war against the king?
I think it's so ridiculous and preposterous. It's extremely disgusting, and because I know for a fact, because some of them are my colleagues, my friends, MP colleagues like Dr. Jayakumar, and I know they are as innocuous and as harmless as they could be, but nonetheless they are, yes, unrelenting and relentless by way of their fight for the downtrodden, for the dispossessed majority, and because they are in a way seen as left, but to me, at the end of the day, in the final analysis, it is their democratic right to aspire and to espouse any ideological persuasion or ideologies, be that from libertarian to socialism to even communism for that matter. And I am of the belief that and I've said that so many times, that even if they want to contest and take into a democratic engagement, they should be allowed. But implicating them to be communists until they themselves, outrightly,
waging war against the king,
outrightly, profess themselves as communists, you cannot blame them. And waging war against the king is in fact, that is ridiculous, because it's you could see that for yourself, that they are, as I said, harmless, and they are so true to their struggle, and their struggle is actually bringing about change, and I think within the ambit of democracy they must be allowed, and not to criminalize and incriminalize, because if truly they are wrong, then charge them in the court and let them defend themselves openly in the to have a fair trial. but putting them under either ISA or the Internal Security Act or the Emergency Ordinance is in fact very regretful.
YB, the public is neither impressed nor convinced with the communist threat boogie alleged by the police. Public perception is that if at all there is a communist threat in the country, it has to be the government-owned mainstream print and electronic media for their demented, undemocratic, gutter brand of journalism. What are your views on the matter?
On
this communist boogie?
All right, the communist boogie. Having boogie for your political enemies or nemesis is always one of the most effective way of getting support or creating hatred for your enemies. So I think once upon a time it could very well be bought in by the riot, but not now. In the new politics where riot have more access to information, it was a good attempt by them to portray the PSM as communist and use that as a communist boogie. But I must say that it's not as easy as before, and the kind of fear tactic, very emotive, and rallying support through inciting that kind of hatred and animosity, I think it's very irresponsible, to say the least. And the BN government, after 5 decades of being in the government, should not at all have resorted to this boogie tactic, because this is such a shameful thing to do. Let it be a contestation based on policy advocacy, on delivery, on performance, rather than assassinating your enemies through such boogies and gutter politic or baseless accusation.
YB, we'll take a short break now. To our respected audience, we trust you will be with us when we return to continue our discussion on the Bersih Enigma with Yang Berhormat Dr. Zulkifli